The emergency klaxon screamed through the horizon's narrow corridors, a sound that usually preceded catastrophe. Commander Jack Harper gripped the edge of the main console, his knuckles white beneath tan skin that spoke of countless hours under artificial lighting. Around him, the bridge of the multinational research vessel hummed with a tension that went beyond standard operational stress. "Confirm the source," Jack barked, his voice cutting through the electronic wail. His eyes never left the cascading data streams that danced across the holographic displays. Each line of information was a puzzle piece, shifting and rearranging with maddening complexity. Lieutenant Aisha Khan, the ship's primary communications specialist, worked her console with a fury that bordered on religious devotion. Her fingers flew across haptic interfaces, pulling apart the signal like a surgeon dissecting an unknown organism. "Sir," she called out, her Pakistani accent sharp with excitement, "this is, well, it's impossible." Jack knew impossible was just a challenge waiting to be understood. The Horizon was humanity's most advanced deep space research vessel, a testament to international cooperation that had taken 15 years and 3 global economic unions to construct. Measuring nearly a kilometer in length, it was part observatory, part diplomatic mission, and part technological marvel. Crewed by a carefully selected team of 247 humans from 36 different countries, the ship represented humanity's most ambitious attempt to understand the universe beyond their solar system. "Break it down," Jack demanded, moving closer to Aisha's station. The holographic display expanded, revealing a signal that defied every known principle of interstellar communication. It wasn't just data. It was alive, pulsing with an organic rhythm that seemed to breathe and shift with each microsecond of analysis. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the ship's lead xenolinguistics expert, materialized at Jack's side. Her dark eyes reflected the shifting patterns of the signal, a look of pure scientific hunger crossing her features. "This isn't a standard transmission," she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. "Look at the modulation patterns." The signal was chaos made manifest, where alien communications were typically precise mathematical constructs. Clean, linear, predictable. This transmission was a living thing. It twisted, transformed, adapted faster than the ship's most powerful quantum computers could track. Each attempt to categorize it resulted in new, unexpected configurations. "Run a full spectrum analysis," Jack ordered. "Cross-reference with every communication database we've got." The ship's alien scientific attaches, representatives from the Galactic Confederation assigned to observe humanity's research, watched with barely concealed contempt. A Zornak representative, its crystalline body shifting through shades of blue and purple, clicked its multi-jointed appendages in what was unmistakably a gesture of dismissal. Another human misinterpretation, the alien's translation matrix produced in flat, emotionless tones. Cosmic background radiation. Nothing more. Jack knew that look. He'd seen it 100 times before. The condescension of species who believed they'd already solved the universe's mysteries. Humanity was still the newcomer, the wild card that hadn't been fully categorized or understood. Aisha's console suddenly erupted with warning lights. "Commander," she called out, her voice rising an octave. "The signal, it's responding to our analysis." Responding. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Dr. Rodriguez leaned in, her breath catching. The signal wasn't just a transmission. It was a conversation. No, more than a conversation. It was alive. "We're not receiving a message," she whispered, a smile breaking across her face. "We're being invited to communicate." The alien observers went silent. The bridge crew held their collective breath. Commander Jack Harper felt the familiar surge of something he'd spent his entire career pursuing, the moment when everything familiar falls away and true discovery begins. Outside the ship's reinforced windows, the endless black of deep space seemed to pulse with a new, unexpected potential. Somewhere out there, something was waiting to be understood, and humanity, in all its chaotic, unpredictable glory, was about to answer the call. The signal continued its impossible dance across the screens, a cosmic whisper waiting to be heard. The Galactic Confederation's central deliberation chamber was a marvel of architectural impossibility. Suspended in the neutral gravity of deep space, the spherical council hall could simultaneously accommodate 17 different sentient species, each represented by a delegation that defied human understanding of biology and perception. High Arbiter Krellax of the Crystalline Imperium waited for the translation matrix to render the human transmission into comprehensible data. His multifaceted consciousness, capable of processing billions of simultaneous information streams, found itself confused. "Repeat the analysis," he commanded, his voice a series of harmonic frequencies that would have shattered human eardrums. The computational AI assigned to signal analysis, a being of pure algorithmic logic named Nexus 9, responded with clinical precision. Transmission parameters remained consistent. Origin: Earth. Classification: indeterminate. Recommendation: further investigation. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not the warm, human expression of humor, but a cold, calculated sound of collective dismissal. The Vornak Diplomatic Corps, a species that had mapped galactic communication patterns for over 30,000 years, found the very idea of a human-originated signal worthy of ridicule. Ambassador T. Lara of the Morphic Concordance spoke first. Her form shifted constantly, a living hologram that reflected the emotional subtext of her communication. "Humans," she began, her voice dripping with condescension, "continue to believe their primitive neural networks constitute a form of advanced communication." The chamber's holographic displays showed the signal, a chaotic dance of patterns that defied every known principle of interstellar transmission. Where alien communications were precise mathematical constructs, this transmission was a living, breathing entity. It adapted, it transformed, it seemed to breathe. Nexus 9 projected a comprehensive breakdown. Each attempt to categorize the signal resulted in new, unexpected configurations. Traditional alien analytical models simply failed. The transmission contains no recognizable quantum entanglement markers, the AI reported. It demonstrates adaptive characteristics beyond known communication protocols. Estimated complexity: unquantifiable. Unquantifiable. The word hung in the chamber like a challenge. High Arbiter Krellax's crystalline structure pulsed with an emotion closest to human frustration. For millennia, the Galactic Confederation had operated on a simple premise. Advanced civilizations communicated through precise, predictable, quantum-encoded transmissions. Mathematical. Pure. Logical. Humans were supposed to be new. Primitive. A species still struggling with basic interstellar travel, let alone advanced communication technologies. And yet, the signal continued its impossible dance across the chamber's displays. It wasn't just a message. It was a living system of communication that rewrote its own rules with each microsecond of analysis. "We cannot ignore this," muttered Zorn Representative Hax, a being of pure energy contained within a sophisticated containment suit. "The humans have discovered something." Discovered. Another human word that carried weight beyond its simple definition. Ambassador T. Lara's form flickered, revealing a hint of something dangerous. Fear. Excitement. "We must contain this," she insisted. "If humans have developed a communication method outside our understanding, they represent a fundamental threat to galactic stability." The Confederation had protocols for such scenarios: isolation, quarantine, systematic dismantling of technological capabilities. But something about this signal felt different. It wasn't just a transmission. It was an invitation, a challenge. Nexus 9 interrupted the diplomatic posturing. Recommendation. Direct communication attempt. Silence filled the chamber. Direct communication with an unknown signal carried risks that could destabilize centuries of carefully maintained galactic protocols. High Arbiter Krellax made a decision that would echo through galactic history. "Prepare a response," he commanded. "But be warned, this is not a standard diplomatic exchange." Outside the chamber, beyond the carefully maintained boundaries of known space, The human signal continued its impossible dance, waiting, evolving, challenging everything the Galactic Confederation believed it understood about communication, intelligence, and the nature of connection itself. The humans had sent more than a message. They had sent a revolution, and the universe was about to listen. The Global Linguistic Research Facility in Austin, Texas, looked nothing like a traditional research center. Converted from an abandoned aerospace complex, it was a labyrinth of neural networks, quantum processors, and walls covered in impossible diagrams that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them. Dr. Miranda Collins stood at the center of organized chaos, her workspace a hurricane of holographic displays, half-empty coffee mugs, and notebooks filled with diagrams that defied traditional mathematical understanding. She was a linguistic prodigy who had been dismissed by traditional academic circles. Too radical, too unconventional, too willing to challenge fundamental assumptions about communication. "It's alive," she muttered, tracing the signal's patterns with fingers that seemed to move faster than human perception. The transmission from the horizon was more than data. It was a living language, a communication system that rewrote itself with each moment of observation. Her primary research assistant, Marcus Chen, watched in a mixture of awe and scientific skepticism. "Alive is a strong word, Dr. Collins," he challenged, but his fingers were already dancing across secondary analysis systems. Miranda's laugh was sharp, cutting. "Alive is precisely the word. Look." The holographic display erupted with color. Where traditional linguistic analysis would break down a transmission into discrete units, Miranda's approach treated the signal as a living organism. Each segment responded to analysis, morphed, adapted. It wasn't just communicating, it was learning. Traditional xenolinguistics assumes communication is a fixed system, Miranda explained, more to herself than to Marcus. Mathematical, predictable. But language is organic. It evolves. It breathes. The global scientific community had laughed when she first proposed her theories. Communication as a living system. Language as an adaptive, self-modifying organism. Now, the signal from deep space was proving her right in ways no one could have predicted. Dr. Jack Harper's transmission from the horizon played in the background. The research vessel's initial contact continued to provide crucial data. But Miranda was seeing something the ship's crew hadn't yet understood. "It's not just adapting to our analysis," she said, her voice rising with excitement. "It's communicating with us. Every time we observe it, it changes, not randomly, intentionally." Marcus pulled up comparative linguistic models. Traditional alien communication protocols appeared as rigid, unchanging structures. The human signal was different. It was fluid. Organic, alive. "We're looking at it wrong," Miranda continued. "We're trying to decode it like it's a message. But what if it's a conversation?" Her team had grown from a handful of dismissed researchers to a global task force. Linguists, mathematicians, quantum physicists, neurologists, all drawn by the impossible signal that defied every known principle of communication. A secure communication line blinked. Commander Harper's voice cut through the facility's controlled chaos. "Dr. Collins, are you seeing what we're seeing?" Miranda's eyes never left the shifting holographic display. "I'm seeing something no one has ever seen before," she responded. "A language that doesn't just communicate. It evolves." The implications were staggering. If language could be a living, adaptive system, what did that mean for understanding intelligence itself? Every alien civilization they'd encountered used communication as a tool. Humans were proposing something revolutionary, communication as a form of life. Outside the research facility, the world continued its normal rhythm. But inside, Miranda Collins was rewriting the fundamental understanding of how intelligent beings connect, communicate, and exist. The signal pulsed, waiting, learning, challenging everything humanity thought it knew about language, intelligence, and the very nature of communication itself. "Marcus," Miranda said softly, a smile playing at the edge of her lips, "prepare the next phase of analysis. We're about to have a conversation with something no one believes is possible. The holographic display shifted, colors dancing like living mathematics. A language was speaking, and humanity was finally ready to listen. The Quantum Technological Defense Complex in Silicon Valley looked more like a cathedral than a research facility. Massive quantum processors hummed beneath transparent floors, each system a marvel of human engineering that had taken decades to perfect. Dr. Robert Nakamura stood at the epicenter of technological innovation, his weathered hands hovering over a holographic interface that seemed to breathe with living light. The signal from deep space was no longer just a communication anomaly. It was becoming a technological revolution. "It's rewriting itself," he muttered to his lead engineer, Dr. Sofia Alvarez. "Not just adapting, rewriting." Traditional technological systems were static, predictable. Each alien civilization they'd encountered approached technology like a mathematical equation: rigid, unchanging, perfect. The human signal challenged everything about that fundamental assumption. On the massive central display, algorithmic patterns danced and transformed. Where an alien system would create a fixed solution, this signal generated infinite possibilities. It didn't just solve problems, it reimagined the very concept of problem-solving. "Look at the computational recursion," Sofia pointed out. Her fingers traced impossible pathways through the holographic representation. "It's not just solving the problem, it's creating new problems to solve." Robert understood the profound implications. Every technological system they'd encountered was designed with predetermined parameters, limits, boundaries. The human signal treated technology like a living organism, constantly evolving, constantly challenging its own limitations. A secure communication channel flickered to life. Dr. Miranda Collins's voice cut through the facility's controlled environment. "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" "Seeing," Robert chuckled. "We're witnessing the birth of a new understanding of technology itself." The signal had begun to interact with the facility's quantum processors, not as an external force, but as a collaborative entity. It didn't just input data, it transformed the very systems receiving it. Quantum algorithms that had taken decades to develop were being rewritten in milliseconds, creating solutions to problems that hadn't even been conceived. Global technological powers watched with a mixture of terror and fascination. The Galactic Confederation's most advanced AI systems were struggling to comprehend what was happening. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligence could interact with technology. Dr. Alvarez pulled up comparative technological models. Alien systems appeared as rigid, unchanging structures, beautiful in their perfection, but ultimately limited. The human signal was fluid, organic, alive. "It's treating technology like a language," Sofia observed. "Not a tool to be used, but a living system to be communicated with." The implications were staggering. Every technological civilization they'd encountered used technology as a means to an end. Humans were proposing something revolutionary: technology as a form of intelligent conversation. A priority alert flashed across the facility's main display. The Galactic Confederation was mobilizing. They recognized the threat, not of invasion, not of destruction, but of a fundamentally different approach to intelligence and technological development. "They're afraid," Robert said softly, "not of what we might do, but of what we represent." The signal continued its impossible dance across quantum processors. It wasn't just transmitting information. It was learning, evolving, challenging everything known about the relationship between intelligence and technological systems. Outside the facility, the world continued its normal rhythm. But inside, humanity was rewriting the fundamental understanding of technology, intelligence, and the very nature of problem-solving. "Prepare the next phase of analysis," Robert commanded. His voice carried the weight of a scientific revolution. The quantum processors pulsed. Colors shifted. Algorithms danced with a life of their own. Something extraordinary was happening, and humanity was just beginning to understand its own potential. The signal waited, watching, learning. ready to show the universe that technology could be more than a tool. It could be a conversation. The quantum isolation perimeter stretched across 3 star systems, a technological marvel designed to be the most comprehensive blockade in galactic history. 17 different alien civilizations had contributed to its construction. A massive network of quantum entanglement disruptors, communication jammers, and gravitational barriers intended to completely isolate Earth from the rest of the known universe. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the United Earth defense vessel Prometheus, watching the containment field shimmer like an impossible curtain of starlight. Her dark eyes reflected a calm that belied the magnitude of the moment. Incoming transmission, her communications officer announced. Galactic Confederation Diplomatic Channel. The holographic display flickered to life. High Arbiter Krulax's crystalline form materialized, his multifaceted consciousness projecting an air of absolute certainty. The containment protocol is now active, he declared. Earth will be isolated until the threat of your communicative anomaly can be fully assessed. Elena's smile was dangerous. Assessed. That's an interesting word. The blockade was comprehensive. Communication satellites were disabled. Quantum communication channels were scrambled. Every known method of interstellar transmission was systematically shut down. The aliens believed they could control information, contain potential threat through technological isolation. They didn't understand humanity. "Sir," Lieutenant Marcus Chen called from the communication station, "I'm detecting anomalous signal patterns." The first crack in the containment appeared less than 12 hours after the blockade was established. A communication burst that shouldn't have been possible, transmitted through channels that didn't exist, using methods that defied every known principle of quantum communication. Dr. Miranda Collins's voice crackled through the bridge's secure channel. "They're trying to play a game of technological chess," she said, her excitement palpable. "But we invented 3-dimensional chess." The human signal wasn't just surviving the containment. It was evolving. Each attempt to block the transmission became input for its adaptive algorithms. The communication network began to treat the blockade itself as a problem to be solved, not through brute force, but through creative reimagination. Quantum entanglement disruptors designed to prevent faster-than-light communication found themselves reprogrammed. Communication jammers were transformed into new transmission methods. The very technology meant to isolate humanity became the mechanism of its communication. "They're using the blockade as a communication channel," Marcus whispered, equal parts terrified and amazed. High Arbiter Krulax's transmission became increasingly frantic. "Impossible," he repeated, a phrase that was losing meaning with each passing moment. The quantum isolation perimeter was supposed to be absolute, impenetrable. Humanity had other plans. Small communication bursts began to appear, not through traditional channels, not through expected methods. They emerged in the quantum foam between established communication networks, in the liminal spaces that alien technologies had never considered meaningful. Dr. Robert Nakamura's team had discovered something profound. Communication wasn't just about transmission. It was about connection, adaptation, understanding. The blockade was becoming a conversation. "They're trying to contain an idea," Elena murmured, watching the impossible signals dance across her display. "You can't contain an idea." By the 3rd day of the containment protocol, the Galactic Confederation's most advanced systems began to show signs of systemic stress. Their rigid, perfect technological frameworks were encountering something they had never anticipated, a form of communication that treated limitations as opportunities. Lieutenant Chen's hands flew across his console. "Adaptive resonance detected," he reported. "The signal is using the blockade's own quantum harmonics to transmit." It wasn't just a breakthrough. It was a fundamental reimagining of communication itself. High Arbiter Krulax's final transmission was a mixture of frustration and something else. Fear, respect. "You cannot continue," he insisted. Elena's response was simple. "Watch us." The quantum isolation perimeter continued to shimmer. But now, it wasn't a barrier of containment. It was a bridge. and humanity was learning to cross it. The Global Strategic Defense Command looked more like a neural network than a traditional military installation. Holographic displays pulsed with living data, each screen a kaleidoscope of information that shifted and breathed with impossible complexity. Commander Jack Harper stood at the center of a storm of human ingenuity. Around him, an elite team of communication specialists, quantum physicists, linguists, and strategic analysts worked in a symphony of controlled chaos. This wasn't going to be a war fought with traditional weapons. This was a conflict of pure information. Dr. Miranda Collins' approach, her eyes burning with the same intensity that had driven her linguistic breakthroughs. "They're expecting us to fight like they do," she said. It wasn't a question. Jack nodded. The Galactic Confederation's military doctrine was built on precise, predictable strategies, quantum-encoded battle plans, mathematically perfect tactical algorithms, warfare as a computational exercise. Humanity was about to show them something entirely different. "Prepare the first wave," Jack commanded. The first attack wasn't a missile, wasn't an energy beam, wasn't anything the alien civilizations could comprehend as a weapon. It was a communication burst. Designed by Dr. Nakamura's team, the transmission was a work of art. Not a message, not an attack, but a living system of information that could adapt, learn, and transform faster than any known computational defense. The alien communication networks first experienced it as a whisper, a quantum-level perturbation that shouldn't have been possible. Where their systems expected a linear response, the human signal created infinite possibilities. "We're not destroying their systems," Miranda explained to the assembled strategic team. "We're making them question the very nature of their systems." Each transmission was a puzzle, a challenge, a conversation that rewrote the rules of engagement with every microsecond of interaction. The Vornak defensive grid was the first to falter. Their most advanced quantum firewalls found themselves not just penetrated, but fundamentally transformed. The attack wasn't about breaking through. It was about reimagining the very concept of a defensive barrier. Lieutenant Aisha Khan tracked the signal's progression. "It's not linear," she reported. "The transmission is creating new communication pathways as it moves. It's learning from each system it encounters." Alien military strategists watched in growing horror. Their perfectly calculated battle plans dissolved like morning mist. This wasn't a conventional attack. This was warfare as a form of communication, with each transmission a living, breathing entity that could adapt faster than any known defensive algorithm. The crystalline Imperium's communication network collapsed first, not through destruction, but through a complete reimagining of its own operational parameters. The human signal didn't just break through defenses, it made those defenses question their own existence. "We're fighting an idea," Jack murmured, watching the holographic displays dance with impossible patterns. "Not a weapon, an idea." Each alien civilization approached warfare as a mathematical problem. Apply force, calculate response, achieve objective. Humanity was proposing something revolutionary, conflict as a form of communication, where the very act of engagement transformed both participants. Dr. Nakamura's team had discovered something profound. Warfare wasn't about destruction, it was about understanding, connection, transformation. The human signal continued its impossible dance across galactic communication networks, not conquering, not destroying, but fundamentally challenging everything known about conflict, communication, and intelligence. "Prepare the next phase," Jack commanded. The strategic team exchanged looks. This wasn't just a military operation. This was first contact reimagined. Warfare transformed into the most complex conversation in galactic history. Outside the command center, the world continued its normal rhythm. But inside, humanity was rewriting the fundamental understanding of conflict, communication, and the very nature of intelligent interaction. The signal pulsed, waiting, learning, ready to show the universe that there were methods of engagement far beyond physical destruction. Warfare, humanity was demonstrating, could be the most profound form of communication. and they were just getting started. The Galactic Confederation's central hub hung like a massive crystalline structure in the void between star systems. 17 different alien species had contributed to its construction, a testament to technological collaboration that had stood unbroken for millennia. Now, it trembled on the verge of complete systemic collapse. Dr. Miranda Collins stood at the heart of humanity's most audacious communication weapon. The room was a symphony of quantum processors, holographic displays that seemed to breathe with living light, and an atmosphere charged with pure potential. Final sequence initiated, Lieutenant Marcus Chen announced, his fingers dancing across interfaces that blurred the line between technology and language. Commander Jack Harper watched the holographic displays with a mixture of scientific curiosity and strategic intensity. What they were about to do was more than an attack. It was a fundamental reimagining of communication itself. The weapon, if it could be called a weapon, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Not a missile, not an energy beam, but a living system of communication that could adapt, learn, and transform faster than any known computational defense. Dr. Robert Nakamura had discovered something profound in the signal's early stages. Communication wasn't just about transmission. It was about connection, understanding, transformation. The first wave hit the Galactic Confederation's communication networks like a quantum tsunami. Where alien systems expected linear responses, the human signal created infinite possibilities. It didn't just penetrate defenses, it made those defenses question their own fundamental existence. Each transmission was a living puzzle, a challenge that rewrote the rules of engagement with every microsecond of interaction. The Vornak communication grid was the first to fundamentally change. Their most advanced quantum firewalls found themselves not just penetrated, but completely reimagined. The signal wasn't destroying their systems. It was teaching them a new way of existing. High Arbiter Krulax watched in growing horror as the impossible unfolded. Crystalline structures that had served as communication nodes for thousands of years began to shift, adapt, transform. The very fabric of their technological civilization was being rewritten by a transmission they couldn't comprehend. "It's alive," Miranda whispered, her voice a mixture of scientific wonder and strategic triumph. Each alien civilization had approached communication as a fixed, mathematical construct. Humanity was demonstrating something revolutionary: communication as a living, breathing entity that could learn, grow, and fundamentally transform those it touched. The signal moved through the Confederation's systems like a living organism, not destroying, not conquering, but fundamentally challenging everything known about intelligence, communication, and potential. Lieutenant Aisha Khan tracked the transmission's progression. "It's creating new communication pathways," she reported, generating connections that didn't exist before. Jack understood the profound implications. This wasn't just an attack. This was first contact reimagined, warfare transformed into the most complex conversation in galactic history. The Crystalline Imperium's most advanced AI systems began to show signs of something unprecedented. Not breakdown, not destruction, but evolution. Dr. Nakamura's team had weaponized something more powerful than any physical weapon: an idea. The human signal continued its impossible dance across galactic communication networks. It wasn't about winning. It was about understanding, connection, transformation. High Arbiter Krulax's final transmission was a mixture of terror and something else: respect, understanding. "You cannot continue," he insisted. Miranda's response was simple and devastating: "Watch us." The Galactic Confederation's communication networks pulsed with new potential. Systems that had been rigid for millennia began to show signs of something impossible: adaptation, growth, evolution. Humanity had done more than attack a technological civilization. They had shown the universe a new way of existing. Outside the communication hub, stars continued their ancient dance. But inside, the fundamental understanding of intelligence was being rewritten. The signal waited, watching, learning, ready to show the universe that there were methods of interaction far beyond destruction. Communication, humanity was demonstrating, could be the most profound form of existence, and they were just beginning to understand their own potential. The diplomatic chamber at the heart of the Galactic Confederation was unlike any meeting space in known history. Suspended in the neutral gravity between star systems, it had witnessed countless negotiations, treaties, and moments of galactic significance, but nothing could have prepared it for what was about to happen. Commander Jack Harper stood at the center of a gathering that would redefine intelligent life in the universe. Beside him, Dr. Miranda Collins and Dr. Robert Nakamura represented humanity, not as conquerors, not as supplicants, but as something entirely new. High Arbiter Krulax's crystalline form pulsed with an emotion closest to anticipation. The 17 species of the Galactic Confederation watched in collective silence, their communication networks still reverberating from humanity's impossible transmission. "You have challenged everything," Krulax began, his multifaceted consciousness struggling to articulate what had transpired. "Our understanding of communication, of technology, of intelligence itself." Miranda stepped forward. She wasn't presenting a weapon. She wasn't offering an apology. She was sharing an understanding. "Communication is not a tool," she explained, her voice carrying the weight of a fundamental revelation. "It's a living system, an organism of potential." The holographic displays around the chamber began to shift, not by technological manipulation, but by the very nature of the conversation happening within them. Where alien systems expected fixed responses, the chamber itself seemed to breathe with possibility. Dr. Nakamura approached the central display. With a gesture that was part scientific precision, part artistic expression, he began to demonstrate something revolutionary. The signal they had sent was not a message. It was an invitation to reimagine intelligence. Each alien species saw something different. The Vornak perceived mathematical potential. The Morphic Concordance recognized emotional depth. The Crystalline Imperium witnessed a form of communication that transcended physical limitations. Jack understood the profound moment. This wasn't a negotiation. This was first contact reimagined. "We're not here to conquer," he said softly. "We're here to connect." The diplomatic chamber fell silent. The very fabric of space seemed to listen. Lieutenant Aisha Khan's analysis appeared on the peripheral displays. Countless communication pathways, created and destroyed in microseconds. Not a linear progression, but a living, breathing network of potential. High Arbiter Krulax made a sound that, in human terms, might have been a laugh, or a sob, or both. "You have shown us," he said, "that intelligence is not about perfection. It's about potential." The human signal continued its impossible dance, not as a weapon, not as a threat, but as the most profound form of communication the galaxy had ever witnessed. Dr. Miranda Collins stepped forward, her presentation transforming the diplomatic chamber into a living demonstration of human potential. Each movement, each word, was part of a communication that went beyond language, beyond technology, beyond understanding. "We are not asking to join your confederation," she explained. "We are inviting you to join a conversation." The alien species exchanged glances. Computational networks flickered. Communication systems that had been rigid for millennia began to show signs of something impossible. Adaptation, growth, evolution. Jack Harper watched the moment unfold. This wasn't a victory of humanity over other species. This was a victory of potential over limitation, of conversation over conflict. The diplomatic chamber pulsed with new potential. Systems that had been unchanged for thousands of years began to show signs of something miraculous. Humanity had done more than make first contact. They had shown the universe a new way of existing. Outside the chamber, stars continued their ancient dance. But inside, the fundamental understanding of intelligence was being rewritten. The signal waited, watching, learning, inviting, ready to show the universe that there were methods of interaction far beyond anything previously imagined. Communication, humanity was demonstrating, could be the most profound form of existence, and they were just beginning to understand their own potential.